Hi everyone, this is another episode of Road to 2300. I haven't played in a long time, so it'd be kind of nice to just play a game. Resignation, we won 5 points. It feels nice. We're at 22-22. Let's do an analysis. There we go. So you can see, right? So again, it was in default, I think it was 3 lines, and I just picked 4. You can pick 5, you can pick however many you want. It's nice to have more lines from the engine so that you can compare ideas. And then here in the strength, you can pick fast, standard, deep, maximum. You just have to, after each move, you have to let the computer think, right? There's not much different. I mean, there's quite a bit of difference, right? From like 3270 to 3560 rating. It's quite a bit, but you just gotta like let the computer think for a little bit. And then you can pick Stockfish, Torch, and then Komodo. Anything, right? And then this is the maximum depth, and then you have to like let the computer think even more too. So here, let's see. And here on the right side, we see the top lines. The top line, that's the top engine move, right? But then the other ones are strong as well, but depending on the sequence. Sometimes we get too excited when we say, oh, I found the top engine move, but like, do you find the whole sequence, right? It's impossible. I think very hard to find the full sequence because that's computer moves, right? So sometimes we get too excited when we find a brilliant move. It's brilliant, yes, but were you able to find the sequence that made that move brilliant? So it's relative, right? Is it really brilliant if you didn't find the whole thing? Anyway, so I went with d4. My opponent went like knight f6, and here if I were to go c4, my opponent can go for e6, and we can kind of go into like a nimso after knight c3 and then bishop b4, and then I would have to either go for queen here or maybe kick the bishop out if I know my theory, things like that. But here I went with knight f3. Maybe it would have been just better to go c4, to be honest. And here it says c4. Yeah, c4 is the top engine move. Knight f3 is fine too, though. So we're still keeping our advantage. And here, whenever you see the white with the plus numbers here, it's saying that these top moves give an advantage to the white pieces. If you see the background being black and then a negative sign here in front of the numbers, it means that that sequence or that line is an advantage to the black pieces. So here we're keeping our advantage. c4, and then d5, and I go for, apparently, let's see. Top engine move, if you let it think a little bit, g3 is nice. Oh, because he wants to go into a Catalan. Catalan is a very strong opening for the white pieces where you kind of sacrifice a pawn temporarily, but then you open up your bishop along the really good diagonal here. So your last square bishop in the Catalan is very strong. But I went for knight c3, and then here we transpose into a nimso actually. And then here I went for e3, maybe dropping some advantage. But still fine because we're not computers. My idea behind the move e3 was, yes, if I go e3, my opponent can go here, and I probably have just queen here. And maybe after a move like this, I have ideas of just kicking the bishop out, and then the bishop will have to trade for the knight. If the bishop doesn't trade, I have ideas of maybe, I don't know. Well, if the pawn is here, then I don't have before, but the idea is that I want to keep the bishop pair. So, and also I wanted to defend my pawn here. So if they were to capture here, I can just capture back with my bishop while developing, right? So castles, I went bishop d2, because now if they go with knight e4, that would be a very bad move for the black pieces, because I can just capture the knight, and this bishop is not defended. If my bishop captures his bishop, captures my bishop with check, I can just capture back with my knight, so I would win a piece in the end. So we gotta be careful there, right, for them. So here I just capture the pawn, and the position is giving an advantage to the black pieces. It's very comfortable for the black pieces here, for sure. So I just capture here, captures with a knight, and they just give the advantage back. So I think like the idea was for them to just capture with the pawn to keep an advantage, to keep the game imbalanced, you know. But then they capture like this, and it says for me to capture there. I was considering it, capturing here, and it says quick captures, and I can probably go bishop here or something, or it says just go queen c2. I think that's probably fine too, because you want to go queen c2, then like maybe rook here at one point. Not sure. But I just went a very conservative approach here. If he captures here, I would just capture with my bishop. If takes, my rooks are both, and then I just castle afterwards. Both rooks will be in a very good position. So my opponent went there. I castle, and I think this was a mistake from him. Let's see, the advantage goes from plus 0.27 to plus 0.59 if I find the top engine move, which I did. Is knight takes d5, right? So I took the knight, and the idea was that, okay, now this pawn is very weak, and this pawn is very weak as well, right? So I have two weaknesses that I can target, but this pawn is very, very weak, especially after the move that I found, bishop c3. And the idea is that this move prevents d4 right away, because I can just capture it with the pieces or with the pawn even, right? So that was nice. Plus I also have a nice diagonal for my dark square bishop, and definitely always looking into the weakness of d5. And now my idea would be to probably bring my queen here, rook behind, or maybe queen here. Although if queen here, they have knight here, it's kind of annoying. So bishop here, I just went with h3, which is a move that does a couple things, right? The idea is that I'm kicking the bishop out, and I'm asking the questions, do you want to capture my knight? The good thing about capturing the knight here with the bishop is that now you get rid of another extra defender of the d4 square. So it can allow them to push the pawn forward, right? Because my knight's covering here d4. So in a way, my opponent, I think, thought, okay, I'm removing a defender of the d4 square, so now I can go for the push. And I think that's what he did. That was the idea, right? He wants to go for this push to just get rid of his weakness. So sometimes we can target a weakness, but as the black pieces here, if we flip the board, right, in a way, if you think of the black pieces, you want to get rid of your only weakness here. So if you push this pawn forward, that's good for the black pieces. You can get rid of something vulnerable, right, on your side of the board. So that's why my opponent just captured the knight. But also I was fine with it because it allows me to keep the bishop here. And the bishops are very strong, especially in like these open positions. Like there are not that many pawns in the middle, right? It's just this d5 pawn. So my bishops are very strong, right, along the diagonals. So here my opponent tries to get rid of his weakness, and I just capture with the pawn. I'm fine with it. And here I just capture a pawn, and especially because if I have my bishop here on c3, if I have my bishop on c3, it would be kind of weird for me to capture this pawn, because then after rook here and I move my bishops back or something, if my bishop is not defending the b2 pawn, the rook can just capture and infiltrate into the second rank. And as I mentioned in previous videos, the white rooks are very strong in the 7th rank, and the black rooks are very strong in the 2nd rank. So the rook will be very, very strong there. But my bishop is here on c3, keeping the tension here along the diagonal, but also defending the b2 pawn, so I can actually just capture this pawn for free without allowing any infiltration. So here I just went back. Let's see what the better move would have been. I was considering bishop a6 actually, but then bishop a6 I was thinking maybe rook here, and I just had to move my bishop again. Actually, that would have been very good. Maybe bishop a6 and then just come here with ideas of queen here, and after this maybe I come here. If the knight ever moves somewhere, I'm threatening checkmate. That would have been a good idea. I just brought it back because I thought if he wants to capture my bishop, that's fine. And here it says bishop g4. I was looking into this because it allows them to push their pawn forward, and it's weakening certain squares, especially the light squares, and I still have a light square bishop. I don't think b3 was a good move. Yeah, it's not even considered a good move. It's not in the top 4 engine moves. I don't know why I did that, especially because the queen is not gonna grab this b2 pawn that just loses the queen, right? So I should have just gone for maybe rook c1. What it says? It says bishop g4, a3. Oh, just a3 here. That's kind of nice. Bishop a4, a3. bishop h5, and bishop e2. So just bring it here, and then I think the computer wants me to have the bishop here on d3. That is probably why. Because then I have ideas of queen h5 and then allowing them to, or making them push and weaken certain dark squares. I think that was the approach that they wanted me to do. But I went here, I don't know why. And I guess I had like ideas of this and this, just, or maybe here like this. That would be good too. But then I allowed the rook d8 there, which was like a little bit annoying. And I just went bishop here. And I was thinking, if I don't do anything, that's fine. Okay, that's fine too. If I move my rook here, for example, then if they ever capture anything or give any discovered checks or something with an discover attack on the queen, I can always just grab the knight. So I wasn't worried about that. I just wanted to make sure that I moved my f1 rook because it's defending the f2 pawn. If the knight moves anywhere, anytime, there's a battery, right, with check. So I just moved my bishop because I had ideas of bringing the queen here, although it was very, very tricky to accomplish anything with this. So I didn't go for queen here because, so I was thinking if queen h5 here, I have to move my queen again, maybe here. It didn't do much. And I was thinking that maybe he has like a discovered check because I can just capture the knight back, but then the queen can just capture the bishop here. And then at one point I need to move my bishop. I think I'm still fine. It's like opposite colored bishops, and that's kind of known for being a draw. Although I'm up a pawn, it doesn't really matter sometimes in certain positions. Maybe in this position I think I'm fine because I have 2-on-1, a 2-pawn like majority here on the queen side. So I went here. My opponent just went with g6 anyways, and I moved my king out of the way. Now if the knight were to move somewhere, I can just capture the queen, and there's no, the knight doesn't come with check anymore. So the queen has to move, but then I also have to move either my bishop or my queen. And here I went for this move, just bishop b1, because although I'm trapping my rook, it's a nice, well, I think like now it makes sense why it's not that good. Maybe I should have just gone bishop d3 actually, wait. Yeah, bishop d3 is the fourth engine move now that I'm looking at it. This is a good move, but it has this idea. If this, they have a knight b3, so hopefully you can see it, maybe. So if bishop d3, I would probably consider going with knight takes b3. If I take the knight, they can capture my bishop with the rook. So things are not super clear anymore. My queenside pawns are just falling. Although I have a very good bishop, my pawns are falling, and it's kind of tricky because I'm also getting, it's just annoying. So I just didn't go for that. I went for this. And then my opponent decided to trade the queens, and I said, you know what? Yes, I want to trade the queens because I'm up a pawn and I have the bishop pair, so I should be good. So here I went for this idea. After this attack, I was thinking about going here, but the problem with this move is that now they have rook here, right? If they have rook there, then they can have a discover attack on my pawn on f2 and then grab one of my bishops. So I didn't want that. They would gain their pawn back. I still have the majority here on the queen side, but I didn't want to allow that. So I just went with bishop here, and this was a similar idea, but now I have an attack here on the rook and the knight. Here the good move would have just been to bring the rook here to d5 to defend the knight. I'm not sure why my opponent didn't do that. I'm not sure why my opponent didn't do that, to be honest. That was the only move. They took some, like, a few seconds, but they didn't take much time to just find this move. They had this move, right? What would have been my response though? This, and then they have this, and I have this maybe. It's not so clear, but the game is still going on. I'm not sure why my opponent didn't see that. especially being a 2000. So here I just go bishop d3, and things are just much simpler here. I just bring my bishop here and lock, defend these pawns. Now I can just push the a pawn, and my bishop just acts as a big pawn. I try to activate my rook, and then after this, just bring the rook up. I want to double up. I don't want to move this rook yet because I don't want to drop the f2 pawn also, right? So here I'm giving a nice threat of capturing the pawn, maybe with the rook. I think with the rook would be better. Because now they have to move the king anyways, and I don't know. I mean, you can give a check, but it's nice because you're threatening more things. If they don't move the king, you can have a discovery attack and win the rook. So here my opponent has to go back, and I go here. Instead of moving my rook yet, I don't want to drop my f pawn. After this, just bring the pawn up and just bring my king forward, right? So here I was thinking maybe, no, they don't have anything. I don't know what I'm thinking. The bishop gets there. It's a very nice outpost for the bishop, but I'm up the exchange, so we should be able to win. And here the rook is trapped. The rook cannot go anywhere without being taken. So they takes, and then I go, and my opponent blunders from another pawn. It's just a little bit desperate, knowing that the position is kind of lost. I don't want to capture this pawn because it's defended by the knight. That's why I am going with this move. If my opponent doesn't do anything, moves the bishop or something, now I can capture this and then bring my rook, defending the bishop still. All right. So here I just bring my bishop back and then give a check. And this is a nice check, I think. And my idea here is if the knight moves, attacking this pawn or something, I can capture this with check, right? So my opponent goes there, and I captured the knight anyways. And the idea is that he cannot capture my rook because my bishop's still defending, and it has to only capture with this pawn, splitting those pawns, and now I can go for rook h6 and just finish up the game by winning here. He was trying to trap my rook because now the idea of this move was to cover here h8, but my opponent forgot, okay, the rook is trapped, right? But it's not. I mean, first of all, I have g4. With g4, it still defends the pawn. If the pawn captures here, I can just bring my rook here, try to attack this bishop, and always in certain positions even capture the bishop because I have a passed pawn. I just need to make sure that my king is very close to the pawn to be able to stop the promotion. But here I can just give a check, and then I can go f4. f4, yeah, f4 is the second best move, because f4 prevents any bishop attack, right? If for some reason, I don't know, I don't do this move and I go push, well, first of all, if I push, I lose my rook. So I want to defend my rook, and I just want to start pushing this pawn. The king has to move away, and at one point give up his bishop for my pawn that is promoting. So that was a good game. I haven't played in a while, and I just moved to my new place. To remind you all, I'll be streaming on YouTube. So I started a stream this week on Twitch, but I decided to just move it to YouTube. I'll try to make sure that the bitrate and everything is good to go, but I just wanted to have some live streams with you guys where we get to practice. So it will be like training sessions, practice games against the viewers, so you can get some practice against a 2200 rated opponent, right? So you get some practice, hopefully you get better, and we can go over games maybe. And the live streams will be only for a couple hours, so from 7 p.m. Central Standard Time until 9 p.m. All right. So I will see you all in the next video, and also I will see you on the live streams on Tuesdays. Bye.